Welcome to this explainer. If you're focused on mastering workplace safety and truly understanding the complex paperwork that keeps people alive, well, you are in the exact right spot. Today, we're going to completely decode the rules of the LOA permit, also known in Arabic as Tadid al-Maslak, based strictly on the SEC safety rules. Now, before we jump into the details, I want to take a brief moment to extend a massive, sincere thank you to Supervisor Ali Al-Jaddah for his incredible work in creating the foundational content for this analysis. We also kindly ask everyone joining us today to keep his parents in your thoughts, and we ask for prayers for mercy and forgiveness for them. All right, so understanding the LOA is absolutely critical. It's not just administrative red tape. It's a literal shield against catastrophic electrical hazards. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our quick roadmap for today. Number 1. What is an LOA? Number 2. When to actually use it. 3. The power disconnection rule. 4. Primary versus secondary permits. And finally, number 5. Associated secondary permits.
Section 1. What is an LOA? Let's understand the foundation. So, what exactly is an LOA? The definition is incredibly precise. Limitation of access, or Tadid al-Maslak, is a written instruction issued exclusively by an SEC employee. Its entire purpose is to help you avoid danger when you're working near the safe approach boundaries of live, medium, or low voltage equipment. Now, what's really interesting here is that word near. You see, the LOA is the safety document you pull out specifically when the standard permit to work, or PTW, and the sanction for testing just aren't applicable. It's all about managing proximity and keeping a safe distance.
Section 2. When do we use this permit? The exact scenarios.
All right, here's when you actually put this permit to use. You need an LOA when you're working right up close to exposed live, medium, or low voltage conductors, cables, or equipment. You also need it for building utility networks, whether that's overhead lines or underground cables. Interestingly enough, it's also required when you're working on plants containing compressed air or other gases, or honestly, just for gaining entry into a substation room. But hey, keep this one major exception in your back pocket. The LOA is absolutely not used for turnkey projects at main distribution network stations. Those fall under a completely different handover protocol.
Section 3. The power disconnection rule. Defining the boundaries.
I want you to think about this critical question for a second. Can electricity actually be disconnected using just an LOA permit? A lot of folks assume that because the LOA is meant for working near live equipment, you aren't allowed to shut the power off. But is that myth actually true? Let's check the rulebook.
The answer is a massive yes. An LOA can absolutely be issued with or without a switching or de-energization program. If your work requires a nearby live circuit to be made dead just to keep you safe, the power can be isolated. And look, if isolation points are created, strict lockout, tagout, or LODO procedures have to be applied. We're talking safety locks, caution signs, and danger hold tags securely fixed and visible on every single isolation point. So, the crucial point is this absolute golden rule right here. Let me read this quote carefully. Isolation of equipment and networks under this permit does not authorize the working parties to work on these isolated equipment. Did you catch that? Just because you killed the power to make your work area safe doesn't mean you magically have permission to physically repair or test that isolated network. The LOA only allows you to be safely near it. If the scope of the job changes and you suddenly need to work on that specific gear, you have to stop, close out the LOA, and issue a completely different primary permit.
Section 4. Primary versus secondary documents. Where does the LOA fit?
In the SEC safety system, documents are basically split into two camps. First up, we have primary permits. This includes your LOA, your medium and low voltage permits to work, your sanction for testing, and confined space entry permits. These prescribe the main work. Think of them as the big, overarching safety umbrella. Contrast that with secondary permits. These are essentially just attachments. A secondary permit cannot legally exist on its own. It has to be tethered to a primary permit. So, where does the LOA sit? It sits firmly in that primary category. It is a primary safety document in its own right.
Section 5. Associated secondary permits. Extending the LOA. Let's move to and see how this builds into a really comprehensive safety plan. When a new hazard pops up during a job, there's a strict three-step dance you have to do. First, identify the specific hazard. Are you working at heights, digging a trench, lifting heavy loads? Second, the main authorized issuer has to provide the required secondary permit. And third, and this is super vital for compliance, you have to match the duration. The time limit of the secondary permit is entirely bound to the primary permit. If your LOA expires or gets canceled, boom, your secondary permits are instantly voided too. They share the exact same lifespan.
Let's look closely at the three main secondary permits you're actually going to attach to an LOA. First is the EXC, or excavation permit. Pretty straightforward. You need this anytime your work involves digging or trenching. Next is WAH, working at height. This is absolutely mandatory for elevated works, and you've got to strictly follow the specific Occupational Health and Safety Procedure 0215. Finally, there's the LOP, the Lifting Operating Permit. This one is used for cranes and heavy loads. When you attach any of these to an LOA, the receiver is legally taking on the responsibility to follow every single safety requirement from those specific OHS manuals. It's a compounding layer of safety.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Look, all these acronyms, LOA, PWR, XEC, WA, they aren't just annoying paperwork designed to slow you down. Strict adherence to the boundaries of the LOA, specifically understanding that you cannot work on isolated equipment under it, and properly managing those secondary permits, that is what ensures every single worker goes home safely to their families at the end of the shift. Knowledge is your first line of defense. So, I'll leave you with this. What permit will you double-check today? Thank you so much for joining me to decode this critical safety document, and one final massive thank you again to Supervisor Ali Aljada. Stay safe out there and keep learning.